And art of giving back always, is something that grows with you. And it's not necessarily about money, it's about donating your time, your efforts into various aspects of personal and professional life.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Omar Al-Abri, Team Lead Strategy Development. Today, I'm hosting at this podcast a professional CSI figure from OQ. Please join me to welcome Mr. Mutasim Al Sariri, Lead Corporate Relations Management and CSI. It's really nice to have you here with us, Mr. Mutasim.
I'm very pleased and honored to be with you here, Omar, as well.
Dear Mutasim, for a start, would you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure, Omar. So my name is Mutasim Al Sariri. I graduated from Sultan Qaboos University and I completed my postgraduate in Cambridge University. First degree was in economics. Second degree was on sustainable leadership. Proud father, 4 kids, amazing wife. And throughout my experience, I was honored and privileged to work with several organizations, local and international, in the field of communication, corporate affairs, external relations, strategic management, and of course, CSI.
Lovely. That is quite experience. Since we're talking about the CSI, I believe you have flourished in the field of CSI. Al-Mutasim, how did that come about? Would you please talk to the audience about the CSI field and how did you develop in this field?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as I said, I studied economics, and probably at a point of time I was thinking, that would be my career for the rest of life.
Lovely.
Working with numbers and figures and forecasting micro and macro economies, all these policies. But it started, I think, with a very simple philosophy that I always had in mind. It's art of giving back. And art of giving back always, is something that grows with you. And it's not necessarily about money, it's about donating your time, your efforts into various aspects of personal and professional life. So there was that moment where I was given the opportunity to work in basically the field of corporate social responsibility, the beginning of my career. And that basically gave me that different perspective of how can you really think about it in a sustainable manner rather than doing it as a one-off. It can be also a project that impacts life of people on the long run. So CSR, or some people call it CSR, we call it CSI at OQ, is something which has evolved over time. Companies really looked into it and they basically has managed to evolve it over years from basically our philanthropic approach into a sustainable programs and initiatives that can have a greater impact on the local communities where we operate in. And that basically what really moved me on and on in this journey, trying to rediscover ourselves on how can we really continue giving back to the community and to the nation in various aspects, in various ways, and in also various means as well.
Great. That journey has absolutely led you to dive deeper into the OQ's new strategy and framework of CSI. Would you like to shed some more light on this?
Yeah, we were very honored to work with a lovely and amazing team, looking into how can we take our CSI programs, activities and initiatives to the next level. And as you know, we were looking into all integrated assets and companies and try to come up with a model that would really suit the consolidated company OQ. So there were some principles that we set at the beginning, and one of them is to look into what the nation require and what are the fulfillment and the aspirations of the various stakeholders that we interact with, the local communities where we operate in. And for that reason, we came up with CSI framework, which defined certain lenses that really helped us to come up with the approved operating model. So there was basically the national priorities, which are very important. and of course the international aspirations and best practices and experiences. On the national priorities level, Oman 2040 was looked at carefully. What sort of areas of focus it has, what sort of KPIs it will be looking at for the next 20 years, and how are we aligning our CSI programs and initiatives into that aspect, and how can eventually support the nation in making Oman 2040 happen. On the international side of things, we looked into, of course, different models and principles, and one of them were the Sustainable Development Goals, and they were eventually linked into the aspirations of Oman 2040.
You mean the United Nations Sustainable Goals?
Yes. In addition to that, there were also some reporting and other basically mechanisms that were examined. So Global Reporting Initiatives, or GRI, mechanism was looked at carefully. And we as a company, we have adopted that actually in our sustainability reporting, as well as Global Compact and other methodologies and mechanisms that are famous in that arena. But more importantly, we looked into also the local best practices as well as the international best practices. So there was a peer review. We have great examples from within at OQ level. Jusur is one of them, of course, as a foundation, and the success story of Jusur is well known to everyone in Oman and actually outside Oman. But also there were some benchmarks of peer partners and corporate organizations. They've done a wonderful job in the CSI arena. And then the third lens that was implemented is the stakeholders' aspirations. And for that purpose, we conducted a survey that touched various stakeholders' profiles within the community, whether they are beneficiaries, whether they are government officials, or even NGO leaders. And the fourth lens, which was implemented and applied, was OQ aspiration. We wanted to make sure that our CSI program is synergized with our operating model and business model as a company. And its growth plan. It's basically diversified portfolio and how it would eventually add value to our social activities, and vice versa. How can we, through our CSI programs, add value to various business aspirations? So in principle, those are the four key lenses that we have applied that eventually resulted into the new CSI framework and business model. And in summary, in there, we have redefined our areas of focus. So now we have 3 areas of focus: economic prosperity, education and health, and environment stewardship. And through these areas of focus, we have redefined our programs and initiatives. And we have now a set of programs and initiatives planned over 3 years ahead, with clear KPIs, with clear basically deliverables, and of course, and more importantly, with a number of also key enablers. And those enablers are not necessarily the budget that we always plan for CSI activities, but more importantly is the non-monetary value that we can extract from our valuable assets, which are our employees. So hence, we have looked into how can we create that linkage between not only our CSI programs and OQ as a company and its business aspiration, but also our CSI programs and the employees, and how can we take advantage of the amazing skills, capacities that each and every employee at OQ have. And that will come eventually through our volunteering initiatives and programs that we will keep rolling out throughout the year.
Very good. I can see now how much effort you made into the framework of CSI, the 4 lenses that you have considered, and in coming up with the CSI focus areas that has been reflected on the sustainable social projects at OQ. The selections of those projects were obviously based on these 4 lenses that gives a very strategic structure to what you have been doing, and I'm really glad that you have done this. Talking about the social projects that you have already started, and some of them at the stage of planning and the rest have been kicked off during that time, actually starting from 2020, and I believe you had some challenges with COVID-19. Has this been considered in your planning for those projects? Would you like to clarify more about this issue?
Definitely. And we looked at COVID pandemic as an opportunity. How can we really add value, extend and leverage our CSI programs to the local community? So there were a set of initiatives that were implemented since 2020. Notably, OQ as an organization invested 2 million Omani Riyal to basically support the government initiatives and efforts in fighting this pandemic. Additionally, we have basically opened the opportunity for our staff to join hands, and hence there was a dedicated program for volunteering and also donation.
Great.
And 500,000 Omani Riyal were collected and were actually invested by our employees to fight this pandemic as well. In addition to that, we have collaborated with OQ Labs on a local level in Oman and internationally to produce sanitizers. So there were thousands of sanitizers that were donated by OQ locally and internationally to the neighboring communities and to a number of NGOs and government entities. So there was basically this rethinking on how can we further leverage our support through our social investment programs with the help of our employees.
Great. I can see that you have already amended your plans, CSI plans, I mean, during that crisis, actually, which is really strategic thinking. Let's move to the list of projects that you have kicked off last year, actually, and we recently have seen it. And by the way, I just want to say congratulations for releasing the CSI, the annual report, OQ CSI Annual Report 2020, that contained a list of CSI projects and initiatives, external engagements, and the volunteering activities. So that is a very nice milestone that we feel proud of. Would you please just talk to us about that report, and what importance does this report carry to you in the CSI department?
The report is a great opportunity to reflect on what we've done over the past year. So there were a number of great milestones that we managed to achieve, Umar. Number one is new partnerships with key stakeholders.
Okay.
One of them was Environmental Authority, basically memorandum of cooperation to support a number of environmental related initiatives and programs over the next 2 years. Number two is the strategic partnership with the governor of Musandam office, where we have also inked a number of partnerships, programs that will support and add value to the local communities where we operate in Bukha and other wilayats in Musandam. And thirdly, there was the partnership with the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Water Resources, where we have looked into how can we introduce technology into sustainable agriculture, and hence how can we also leverage that through the support of SMEs. So an SME will be implementing these basically programs in the next 2 years. So in summary, in 2020, we had over 35 strategic projects that they were implemented across Oman, all the way from Musandam to Dhofar. And there were also some initiatives that were implemented on the international level as well. And these projects touched the lives of thousands of people in the basic 3 areas of focus: economic prosperity, environment stewardship, education, and health. And that would have not been possible, actually, without the great support that we have received from our internal stakeholders.
Yes.
The various basically business units and functions within OQ, as well as the external stakeholders, various ministries, various NGOs, and local community, basically champions who've been very much supporting our programs, believing in whatever we basically do and deliver, and they see the value of trying to move away from one-off short-term initiatives,
Yes.
into more of a sustainable long-term programs.
That is really a very interesting journey, Al-Mu'tasim. Just before we end this lovely conversation, would you like to say anything to your dear audience?
I would like to extend my thanks and appreciation to OQ leadership team. They've been of a great support throughout my journey over the past years with OQ. I would like to extend my also deep thanks and appreciation to my lovely team who've been very much switched on, trying to always make a change in whatever we provide to the community. I would like also to extend my deep thanks and appreciation to my family, my mother, brothers and sisters, my wife, and of course my 4 kids, who've been very much understanding and supportive throughout my career.
Thank you, Al-Mu'tasim. It's been really a pleasure to have you here with us talking about the CSI, and we're certainly looking forward to seeing you again in another podcast. We would like to extend our thanks and appreciation to our audience, and goodbye.
Thank you very much, Umar. It has been a great pleasure.